Now, I am not officially sure if we are going to see Hell in a Cell 2021 as this, but really, it should be seen as the last WWE pandemic pay-per-view, because when we get to Money in the Bank, we're going to have real fans in the stands, and that makes me very excited because I miss them so much. Wrestling without people is essentially rubbish. Well, that's not true. A bunch of promotions have actually done very well, but my word, can I not wait for that. However, before we do get ahead of ourselves, my name is Simon Miller. Welcome to What Culture Wrestling. It's a pleasure to see you through your YouTube device. We need to try and guess, this is what we do here, what's going to happen at Hell in a Cell. And do I have some doozies for you? Make sure you get involved in the comments too, and let's get on with it. We shall start with what is surely going to be the most crazy part of the night, which is Alexa Bliss versus Shayna Bazer. Now, I do hold out a small glimmer of hope, because Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss on the most recent episode of Raw, well, that was actually quite shenanigan-free, apart from Reginald getting all hypnotized. And sure, we had a few Undertaker-like sit-ups, but when you take spooky hocus-pocus characters and you put them in the ring and you actually let them wrestle, well, I don't think that's that bad at all. In fact, this was my favorite use of the persona so far. The difference, however, when it does come to Shayna, is that the last time we did see her, she was tied up with Lily and running around going, I'm really scared, I don't want to die. So it doesn't really fit the story if we don't go back to that. So maybe this is just going to be a big pile of gubbins. It's really quite difficult too, because when you take a step back and think about it, neither of these guys should be losing. We have invested so much time into Alexa Bliss, that would be ridiculous. But also, yeah, boy, I know, Shayna Baszler is the most legitimate person in that company, or at least one of them. I don't want her to be beaten by demonic powers. That's just silly. Let's face it though, WWE doesn't seem to understand how real Shayna Baszler is, so she's going to lose here. Probably when Lily returns for her swan song and zaps her with some lightning out of her fingers. I don't know what she does. We've already seen black goo come out of Randy Orton's head, so WWE could literally do whatever the hell they want. Don't even pretend that somehow Nia and Reginald aren't going to get involved either. And I bet actually after what happened on Raw, here's my crazy prediction. Alexa Bliss will do some kind of magic to Reginald, and then he will join her as essentially her new Lily, because of course when you have fans back, you can't just run around with a doll. I don't know what any of that means, but Alexa Bliss will win, and Reginald will be her new best friend. Also, where the hell does Alexa Bliss even go after this? I suppose for the women's title. You heard it here first. And speaking of that championship, we're also going to be getting Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley. What a great ride it's been. Now, I have found the build to this truly bonkers, especially when Nikki Cross just popped back onto the scene and said, hey, I'm going to insert myself into this feud. But as ever, with a lot of WWE narratives, you know when we get to the pay-per-view, this match's going to be fire. The pull-apart brawl they did in the last episode of Raw was also pretty good. My only real concern and my only real worry is what the fallout of this is going to be. Now, in no world should Ripley be losing, but you know how that goes. And also never forget that at WrestleMania 37, the original plan was for Charlotte Flair to beat Lacey Evans for this belt. And you know, when it comes to Vince McMahon, when he does have an idea in his head, well, he really struggles to let it go. I don't even care about this constant desire to give the Queen as many title reigns as possible. If that's what you want to do, that's what you should do. But here, in this moment, in June 2021, it shouldn't come at the expense of Rhea Ripley, especially when we go back to WrestleMania 36. And that makes me worried as well, because we barely mentioned that at all. And the only idea I can come up with is that we haven't gone back to it because WWE has gone, oh, we're going to have Rhea Ripley lose, but we still want to protect Rhea, so do not mention that every time these two have fought, Charlotte usually wins. And I know that hurts your brain because there's much simpler ways, but again, WWE. It would be such a silly move though. I am backing Rhea 100%, especially when we're this close to having fans back in the building. You should be building her up as much as possible so that anyone that doesn't watch NXT can go, wow, what a nightmare she really is. No Nikki Cross nonsense either, right? We don't need that, although she probably will come out here. And that's going to be curtains for one of these two, because you know they are professional wrestlers and they can't handle surprise roll-ups and they cannot handle being distracted. We'll stay with the women's division as well because we also have Bianca Belair taking on Bayley. And really, you could just take everything I just said and copy and paste it here and you'd kind of have my thoughts. Saying that though, this one is a little bit easier, and if you're asking why, the answer is simple. It's because of Bayley. Now, she was absolutely the MVP of the pandemic era, but WWE doesn't seem to understand that, hence why she didn't even have a match at WrestleMania. And I know it's been months since then, but I am still not over it. But if WWE is happy for her to do that, then they're also going to be happy to have her pinned here. And the reason this is okay is because that's the right move to make. Bianca is still climbing that ladder, and really she just needs to get through as many feuds as possible as she gets better and better and better. And we as fans go, man, she's such a great champion. No matter who tries to kick her ass, she still wins the match. She's also one of the best baby faces WWE has, and yes, once more, the build to this has just been crazy. I mean, it's literally been the other person comes out and goes, the other person comes out and goes, then Seth Rollins is here going with that weird cackle he does. But look, I have got a little bit of something out of it because I am a goof and I am ridiculous, and this has been really goofy. My word, it's been ridiculous. You gotta assume that Sasha Banks is on her way back soon too, which means we gotta do Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks round 2 at SummerSlam, which means Bayley here just has to be moved to one side. And that's okay, as long as we have plans for Bales after this. The role model is so damn good, you shouldn't push her into the corner. We only have 5 matches announced for the pay-per-view at the moment too, because WWE loves getting to SmackDown or even the Sunday before the show and go, haha, here's a bunch more. So we will move on to the men's world titles, and we will start with Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre in a Hell in a Cell. And it does kind of suck that this is going down in the Hell in a Cell, because once more, for like the 7th year running, it's only doing this because of the name of the show. Like, they just pick random people and say, well, you've got to be in Hell in a Cell and you've got to be in the Hell in a Cell. But thankfully, Bob and Drew are so good, they will absolutely make it work. I mean, McIntyre doesn't have bad matches and Bobby is on the run of his life at the moment. And given that this should be their big blow-off encounter, I think they're gonna do some crazy, freaky, deaky stuff here. And as soon as they do that, I'll be like, man, I'm so happy it was in Hell in a Cell. Because I'm fickle. The real criticism is that by this stage, both guys really need new opponents, but that's fine, that's okay. Let them go absolutely crazy here, and then have things ready for them round the curtain, and also have Drew McIntyre lose. That's okay. Sometimes in life people win, and sometimes they don't. Look at who he's facing. Bobby Lashley looks like one kind of big muscle that has been mutated in a lab. No one's gonna go, well, Drew McIntyre's rubbish because he lost to that. It's really not a problem. We also do have Kofi Kingston in the wings, and bravo to WWE because they have built that story perfectly. So let's move into Money in the Bank and do Kofi Kingston versus Bobby Lashley. And then there's a wealth of opponents for Drew to take on. And because now I see Drew McIntyre as a top star, you can be having top star matches that don't even need to be in the main event. McIntyre also pinned Bobby Lashley on Raw, so you've got to imagine that he is going to be winning. And what I would do if I was in charge, and very sadly I'm not, is I would start leaning towards SummerSlam where we do Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. We've always wanted to see that. Lashley has been going on about this for years, so just make it happen, especially because apparently in 2021, SummerSlam is going to be WrestleMania, even though we've already had WrestleMania. I don't know, but that's what people are saying. Bob wins. Boom! That's right, hello me, it's Simon Miller. I know I'm dressed all differently and maybe I've got a bit more facial hair, but that's because 24 hours or some period of time has passed since I recorded this predictions video, and then WWE just went, we're not gonna do Roman versus Ray on the pay-per-view, we're gonna do it on SmackDown instead. Now really, I couldn't give 2 hoots, because WWE aren't trying to sell shows anymore, so whether it's SmackDown or Hell in a Cell, it makes no difference to me, but I felt like we should say something, although I still think the outcome is going to be the same, and I'll explain that back in the past in a second. Why does WWE have to do this? Now this doesn't make any sense. Watching an episode of Raw. Anyway, old Simon, take it away. Which leads us to Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio for the Universal Championship. And yes, once again, this is dumb. Rey just went, excuse me, Mr. Reigns, you did hurt my boy, so now will you fight me inside a Hell in a Cell? And Roman was like, oh yeah, head of the table acknowledged me. Yes, we just have to live with this. Here is the thing though, while for not one solitary second do I actually think that the head of the table, the tribal chief, Roman, we love you, is going to lose his title, out of every single person on the roster, do you know who the one guy is that will at least for 7 seconds make me go, oh my gosh, I was wrong, they're gonna win? It's Rey Mysterio. And I bet that happens again. And in the moment I'll be wrong and be like, damn it, I got tricked. But that's what wrestling is all about. Every now and then you should have egg on your face. It's called a work. Jimmy and Jey Uso have to be involved at some point as well, even though that does water down the stipulation even more. Because don't forget, we built this thing to keep people out. But actually, I'd find it a little bit more strange if they didn't, especially because on SmackDown last week, it seemed like Jey Uso had finally had enough, but the Jimmy Uso was coming round to the idea, mostly because Roman Reigns was manipulating him. Roman doesn't get beaten here though, because it just wouldn't make any sense in the world, although he will probably try and kill Dominic Mysterio again, but I'll get to that in just 1 second. And to tie it into SummerSlam 2, everybody's going, oh, it's going to be Reigns versus John Cena, it's going to be Reigns versus John Cena, and I'll keep it nice and simple. Make it Reigns versus John Cena. I need that in my life. So on that side note as well, if you do just happen to be a fan of the lineage of Dominic Mysterio, we could be in for a right treat. Because of course, we go back to 2005, when Rey Mysterio beat Eddie Guerrero to have custody of Dominic. If you then follow the line of people that have beaten Rey Mysterio ever since then, and it's gone to Edge, I think Batista had it for a while, now, if you can believe it, it's come back to Roman Reigns. So if we do Roman Reigns versus Dominic Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio somehow wins, he will then have custody of himself, which, let's face it, sounds like a WWE storyline. But yeah, let's not get confused here. Roman Reigns, our tribal chief, oh Roman, you're the best, will come out on SmackDown the following week, and he'll still have the gold. Because we have to try and predict the rest of the card itself for things we talked about earlier, I certainly could see a rematch between the New Day and RK Bro, which RK Bro would win. And you've got to do something with the Intercontinental title. Maybe you could even do Apollo versus Big E versus Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, or like variations of that. But regardless what you do, Apollo Crews will win. Could also get the final match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Baron Corbin, although of course even after that they'll have to do 78,644 more. And now it actually seems like we started doing this to bring back the King of the Ring tournament. So I'm going to squat down, don't know why not. I'm going to keep everything crossed because once more, that's something else that I need. So if WWE, you'd like to give it to me and make sure you put Xavier Woods in it, I will give you a thumbs up. So there you go, predictions for Hell in a Cell 2021. Make sure you let me know yours in the comments in case I've missed something down there. I think it's going to kind of be a by the numbers show, but mostly because Money in the Bank's going to have fans. And at SummerSlam, even Stephanie McMahon said in an interview, oh my gosh, we got a load of surprises. So I'm quite excited about WWE's future. But how many times have we said that? Also, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And again, you can go over to whatculture.com and read a bunch of articles. You can come say hello on social media. We will indeed say hello back. And if you'd like to frequent more YouTube videos, while you're on YouTube, just get to that clicking. My name is Simon from What Culture. Make sure you enjoy the week. Make sure you enjoy the pay-per-view. And of course, I'll see you Monday morning or Monday afternoon at some point to up those downs for this show. And see if I was right, or as usual, remember that I was wrong. I will see you then.